So today I'm going to do two very inconsequential or four very inconsequential Q posts, at least on the surface of it, and let's call this tongue-in-cheek day. So the first thing has to do with what I posted yesterday, and I made some kind of comment about Dershowitz and the fact that he was an Epstein Lolita Express rider, okay? And I probably had at least a dozen comments that, oh gosh, he didn't go to the island, he just went to Canada or someplace else. So a couple things. First of all, the fact that there's a 17 on that log, on that flight log, it means, I think, almost nothing since it was in, what, 2004? And it happened to be the 17th of November or April or whatever it was. I don't think that's the key to the whole 17 business. Number two, I don't care whether he rode to Quebec or Toronto or any place else. He rode in Dershowitz's plane, or in Epstein's plane. Some of you have pointed out that there was an attorney-client relationship. Yeah, well, that doesn't make him a good guy, right? And I'm not trying to say he's evil. I'm just telling you that typically attorneys and clients don't fly in planes together, and attorneys who represent clients don't typically party with them, especially if partying with them means that they're tainted by that client's personal lifestyle. Now, are there attorneys that do? Yeah. Are they tainted? Yeah, they are. And so the appearance of it is not good no matter what. And I think there's some evidence that Dershowitz flew on that plane 3 or 4 times, and over a period of 4 or 5 years. Does that mean that he was always working in an attorney-client relationship? Well, probably not. Does that mean that while he was flying on the plane, he was collecting evidence for a trial? Probably not. That doesn't mean that they couldn't have gone to take a rash of depositions of important people for some witness examination thing. That's possible, yeah. And then when Epstein gets arrested, Dershowitz's answer is, now you got to pick this one up, right? Dershowitz's answer is, well, gosh, we were just going after, I'm a Harvard guy, and I was going after a big $50 million donation from Epstein. And when I was talking to Lady D. Rothschild, she introduced me to Epstein so that we could get the donation. Well, Lady D. Rothschild. So we've got, what is it? Spooks on the left of me, spooks on the right, however the song goes. It's not spooks, and you're going to correct me, what? But crazy people on both sides, and we're supposed to say he's a great guy. You know, I think that the better explanation is that Trump knows full well who this guy is, and what we need to take a look at is that he's probably not a good guy. He's a very bright guy. I thought his explanation of the attorney-client relationship having to do with Cohen was pretty lame and about half-witted, but that's neither here nor there. But I think it's probably more proper to look at him as a defanged snake, not as a good guy, right? He doesn't wear a white hat. He never wears a white hat. He is a mouthpiece. He's a hired mouthpiece. And he's a Harvard hired mouthpiece, a former liberal ACLU kind of mouthpiece that is suddenly sidled up to Trump. And one can say, well, gee, why is he suddenly sidling up to Trump? I would say to you, it is as likely as not that he's sidling up to Trump because he knows Trump has the goods on him, and that if he could really be helpful to Trump, maybe he'll escape being rounded up with all the rest of Epstein's buddies and the Rothschilds. That's what I would say. And if, in fact, Alan, good guy, Dershowitz signed on to the Trump deal, all the better. So the second issue has to do, and I'm not going through these things in linear order, lineal order as far as the couple postings over the last day or so. The second one has to do with a couple pictures that had to do with a whole bunch of ag Midwest state guys sitting around a giant oval table meeting with the president about farm state stuff and tax reductions. And the idea was, the big deal was that that the word memes went into the explanation, and that it was a misspelling. And of course, I don't need to mention probably what a meme is to anybody here, but it is some kind of a classical example of something which gets used for a whole variety of different things. In other words, it is a viral kind of event that everybody recognizes, that gets used in various kinds of events or situations or pictures to represent something that floats out from it. And it is perfectly appropriate to call this a meme. And the reason for it is that you've got 40 or 50 people that are all sitting around there, Republicans and Democrats, rhinos and goofballs, and and rhinos can be goofballs too. And in a 3-hour meeting, if they had one, each person would get to say 2 sentences. And what they're going to use this for, the Midwest guys that are Republicans are going to say, see, I was there with the president and I was representing you, and we're going to get tax things done, and we're going to get ag stuff done, and you farm guys are going to all be better off because I'm there and I have the president's ear. And the Democrats are going to say, when the election comes up this fall, I can't stand that guy and he's a total piece of crap. But you can see that I'm willing to work for you in this situation, and I'm there. I'm one of the important people that he brought in to find out what's going on with the ag states. So that's what you get out of it. And you get idiots, right? These United States senators and House guys, men and women both, play little stupid games. How do I know that? Well, I knew a bunch of them. I knew at least 4 of the senators from the state from which I come, and I campaigned with one of them and flew him in my little airplane for a weekend, so I had his ear for years and years and years. And the last 2 guys that we had that I was actively involved in the state, not involved in the Senate, is a couple of guys named Bacchus and Burns in Montana. Now, when you talk about idiots, Bacchus didn't do a single thing for 40 years or so. Finally retired from the Senate. He was so meek that he couldn't even give a speech on the floor of the Senate, so he usually did it in some little chamber with coaches and staff and a couple of photographers. Burns was this blustery rodeo and auction announcer that wore cowboy boots, and at one point characterized himself as not a show horse or race horse, but he was a workhorse. Well, what that meant was he was neither bright nor engaging. That's what it meant. And I used to say that when I lived in Montana, that I would compare my 2 senators to anybody else's 2 senators in the country on the scale of stupidity. And so what we've got here are guys that couldn't say excrement if they had a mouthful. And that's probably true for about 90% of the 40 of them. One of my complaints the other day was that these farm states, these northern states, who are not severely detrimentally impacted by immigration, if they were statesmen, they'd stand out and say, hey, look, I'm from a state that has a relatively neutral stance in this, and we need to do something. And one of the responses, some of the responses I got from commenters was, no, Minneapolis has problems with immigration. South Dakota has problems with immigration. Iowa has problems with immigration. Yeah, that's true, but it doesn't they don't make up 20% or 30% of the population like they do in Arizona and Texas and Florida and places, California, where the senators and representatives wouldn't dare say anything because it impacts their voting bloc. Those senators in those northern states and representatives have a wonderful statesmanlike opportunity to step forward. And when have they done so? Well, not ever. Not ever. For decades. The guys like Mike Mansfield that existed in Montana 30, 40 years ago, those guys that stepped out and made statements, hard statements about things that needed to be done, don't exist anymore. So what's meaningful? You know, we had a Q posting yesterday on Rod Rosenstein. Well, it's about that he's having trouble, and that there's some message in one of the news MSM things about it. Well, that's only about the 96th time that Rod Rosenstein's been in the Q postings, and nothing has happened. Nothing has happened. So, and finally, here's the deal, which is part of my thumbnail on the front, is that on the one hand, there's this ag stuff, this fake event, which is a news op, right? That's all it is. And the big deal is whether it's a meme or not, and what constitutes a meme. And then there's this posting that slides through, for which there is no comment from Q, but an anon says something about living extraterrestrials. Let me see if I have it right here. I may or may not have it right here. Yeah, the comment from the posting is, "To my fellow incarnated extraterrestrials, how could I have forgotten this crumb?" And it gets reposted. Okay, is that meaningful? Well, it's either a joke, which who knows, right? Who knows? Or it is more meaningful than we could possibly imagine. And I'm going to suggest to you that on the scale of Rod Rosenstein is having trouble, number one. Number two, a bunch of ag idiots are sitting around making memes because they got to sit with the president. Or number three, that Q might be pointing out that in fact there are extraterrestrials, and that Q gives credence to this, and it may or may not be part of the fallout that comes with full disclosure. Would that be equally meaningful with the other two? I would say it is. And so what am I going to say about whether or not it's real? Well, I'm going to tell you that I think it is unlikely that there are billions of galaxies, each one of which has billions of stars, and that NASA has recently said as many as 40% of the stars in this galaxy alone may have habitable planets on them, and that the planetary evolvement of many of these star clusters and throughout this galaxy, in the core of the galaxy, may be a couple billion years older than we are and more evolved. Does that mean that there's life there? You know, I don't know. I obviously haven't hopped in my little car and gone to visit them. But to suggest that there has never been any presence on this planet of extraterrestrial life is probably more of a stretch than the other way around. And so, you know, my question to you is, why did this anonymous get dropped? Why did the comment about it get dropped by Q, and what meaning does it have? And it's a rhetorical question for which I don't have an answer. But I think one of the things that I've come away with all of this Q stuff is that there are people on the internet and in YouTube that are both reporting and commenting about these things that treat every little piece of every little thing like it's equally important. And I'm going to say, as is the case with the Dershowitz airplane thing, that not every single one of them is of equal importance, okay? And the fact that Dershowitz may not have ridden to the island probably does not rank in the same level as whether or not there are extraterrestrials, right? Would that be a reasonable, consequential implication? Yeah, I think it might. So I'm more curious about what you folks have to say than I am intent upon telling you what great and wonderful brilliance I have about these process. My thumbnail says, which one is more important, the meme or the possibility that there are extraterrestrials? And I'll leave that to you, and you vote, right? Leave a comment. Which one do you think is more important? Or maybe you think that Epstein and Dershowitz and their social relationship is important. So I'll give you the three. Those are the three I'm reporting today. Is Dershowitz, or the meme, the ag meme idiots, or the possibility that there may be extraterrestrial life on this planet that comes and goes? Which one of those is more important? And the flat earth guys, extraterrestrials could land on the flat earth too. Thanks so much for watching. This is a great day. And I got more fun coming. Thanks. Give a thumbs up if you're having fun today. Subscribe if you like. And we'll look for more important things to come, right?